When you trust someone with every beat of your heart, you never think they'll be the one to rip it apart when you're at your weakest. Love makes you blind, vulnerable, and hopeful, all at once. I learned that lesson the hard way. What was supposed to be a beautiful celebration of our marriage turned into the darkest chapter of my life. My wife, the woman I once thought was my soulmate, betrayed me with 5 sailors and the captain during our anniversary trip. And the cruelest part? I was too sick, too helpless, too trusting to stop her. Our marriage began like a dream. We were young, full of energy and plans for the future. She had that kind of smile that could light up an entire room, and I used to think I was the luckiest man alive to have her by my side. We traveled, laughed, and dreamed together. I believed in her completely. Even when friends warned me she was too flirtatious, too outgoing, I brushed it off. I believed love was stronger than suspicion, and I refused to see any darkness behind her beauty. We built a life together brick by brick, and though not every year was easy, I always thought our love was unbreakable. As our 7th anniversary approached, I wanted to do something special, something unforgettable. I wanted to take her away from our daily routine, away from the noise of life, and remind her of the love we once shared. I worked overtime for months to afford the cruise. It was one of those all-inclusive anniversary packages, promising romance, sunsets, and luxury. She was thrilled when I surprised her with the tickets. I remember how she threw her arms around me, tears in her eyes, saying I was the best husband in the world. I had no idea that the same trip would reveal just how wrong I was about her. The first day of the cruise felt like heaven. The ocean stretched endlessly around us, the air smelled like salt and freedom, and she looked radiant, more alive than I'd seen her in years. We laughed, drank, danced on the deck under the stars. For a moment, it felt like we were falling in love all over again. She whispered that this was the happiest she'd been in a long time, and my heart swelled with pride. But fate has a way of turning joy into pain faster than you can blink. On the second day, I woke up nauseous. The motion of the ship made me dizzy. I tried to brush it off, but within hours, the seasickness hit me hard. I couldn't stand, couldn't eat, couldn't even look at the water without my stomach turning. I told her to go out, to have fun while I rested. I didn't want her to feel trapped because of me. She hesitated at first, pretending to be caring, but I could tell she was restless. Finally, she agreed and left the cabin with a quick kiss on my forehead. I told her I loved her. She didn't say it back that time. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I believed she was out exploring, maybe making small talk with other passengers. But as hours turned into an entire day, she barely checked on me. When she did return, it was late at night. She'd smell faintly of perfume and alcohol, her makeup smudged, her dress wrinkled. She'd say she'd been at the lounge or watching the stars. I wanted to trust her, so I did. That's the thing about love, it blinds you even when the truth is standing right in front of you. Laughing. By the third night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She'd started dressing up more, short dresses, red lipstick, perfume she'd never worn before. When I asked who she was meeting, she just laughed it off, saying she wanted to feel beautiful for me, but she'd barely spend 10 minutes in the room before leaving again. I began to feel not just sick from the sea but sick from the growing suspicion twisting inside me. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. That night, I woke up around midnight, dizzy and weak. The bed beside me was cold, her purse was gone, and her phone was left charging on the table. I sat there, heart pounding, wondering where she could be at that hour. Maybe she went to get medicine for me, I told myself. Maybe she's just restless. But when she didn't return for hours, my fear grew unbearable. Against my better judgment, I picked up her phone. I wish I hadn't, but I did. Her messages were open. There were photos, her smiling on deck surrounded by sailors, drinks in hand, her arms around the captain. There were flirty texts, jokes about secret adventures, and messages from someone saved as Cap. At first, I thought it was innocent, maybe friendly teasing, but then the tone changed. The captain telling her she looked irresistible, her replying with heart emojis, then, explicit messages, plans to meet in one of the crew cabins, jokes about her being the special guest of the night. My stomach turned, not from seasickness this time, but from heartbreak. My hands trembled as I scrolled. The timestamps matched the hours she was gone. Voice notes of laughter, pictures of her holding a glass of wine in what was clearly not a passenger lounge. The walls were plain, metallic, part of the crew quarters. My mind went numb. I felt every breath become heavier, my chest burning. I wanted to throw the phone, scream, break something, but I couldn't. I just sat there in silence, realizing the woman I had sacrificed so much for was betraying me while I was too weak to move. When she came back at dawn, she looked exhausted. Her hair was tangled, and her eyes had that strange mix of guilt and defiance. She smiled weakly, asking how I was feeling. I stared at her, my throat dry. I couldn't even speak. Every word that wanted to come out was buried under the weight of disbelief. She acted as if nothing had happened, slipping into bed beside me. I turned my back to her, pretending to sleep. I could smell the faint scent of cologne on her skin, not mine. That night, I cried silently. the sound of the waves outside mocking me. I knew I couldn't confront her there. I needed proof, and I needed a plan. The next morning, I told her I felt better and suggested we spend the day together. She agreed, though her eyes flickered with hesitation. A few hours later, she said she needed to meet someone about an excursion. That was my confirmation. While she was gone, I went to the ship's guest services and requested a cabin change, pretending it was for medical reasons. I told the staff to tell anyone who asked that I'd been taken to the medical bay due to dehydration. They agreed, unaware that I was setting a trap. That night, I hid near the crew area, weak but determined. The corridors were quiet except for distant laughter and the hum of the ship's engines. My heart pounded as I approached the restricted section. The laughter grew louder, familiar laughter. Hers. I peeked through the half-open door, and what I saw froze me. She was there, sitting on a table with the captain beside her and 5 sailors around, drinking, laughing, her body language screaming comfort and familiarity. The captain leaned close, kissed her neck, and she didn't stop him. The others cheered. My chest tightened until I couldn't breathe. The woman I had loved for years, the woman I had planned to grow old with, was in another man's arms, surrounded by others, while I stood in the shadows, powerless. I didn't make a scene. I didn't shout. I walked away quietly, every step heavier than the last. Back in my cabin, I broke down. I screamed into the pillow, cried until there was nothing left. I didn't sleep that night. The image replayed over and over in my mind like a cruel movie. But by morning, my tears had turned into anger, cold, focused anger. When the cruise ended, she acted as if nothing had happened. She hugged me, kissed me, said she had an amazing time. I smiled back. I don't know how I managed to keep it together, but I did. I let her believe she'd fooled me completely. Once we got home, I began collecting everything, every message, every photo, even requesting access to certain onboard surveillance for security reasons. It wasn't easy, but I managed to get what I needed. There was footage of her walking into the crew area late at night, not once, but multiple times. Weeks passed. I pretended to be fine. I wanted her to feel safe, to let her guard down. Then, one evening, I told her I wanted to host a small dinner for our families to celebrate our anniversary. She was thrilled. She spent hours cooking, decorating, dressing up. She looked beautiful, the same beauty that had once blinded me. As everyone gathered around the table, laughing and talking, I raised a glass for a toast. I spoke about love, trust, and betrayal. She looked confused at first, then nervous. I plugged in a USB drive to the TV. Her smile vanished as the screen lit up with images, the messages, the photos, the proof. The room fell silent. Her family gasped. My parents stared in disbelief. She burst into tears, begging me to stop, saying it wasn't what it looked like. But it was exactly what it looked like. There was no denying it. Every person in that room saw the truth. She ran to her room, grabbed her bags, and left without a word. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Her betrayal had already burned everything to ashes. The weeks after were painful. I felt hollow, like I was walking through life without a soul. I avoided people, avoided places that reminded me of her. But slowly, I began to heal. I started going to the gym, focusing on work, rebuilding the confidence she had shattered. Every day hurt a little less. I began to see that her betrayal, while devastating, was also a twisted gift. It freed me from a love built on lies. Months later, I heard she tried to contact me, but I ignored her. I had no words left for her, no anger, no forgiveness, just silence. I had given her everything, and she chose to throw it away for a few nights of thrill and lust. That was her choice, and she had to live with it. Today, when I look back, I don't see the man who was betrayed. I see the man who survived. I see someone who was brought to his knees but stood up stronger. I see someone who learned that loyalty means nothing to the wrong person, but it means everything to yourself. That cruise destroyed my marriage, but it rebuilt my strength. If you're listening to this and you've ever been betrayed, remember this: you might be too weak to stop the pain in the moment, but one day, you'll rise above it. I was seasick, broken, and helpless, but I'm not that man anymore. She lost everything for her pleasure, but I found something far greater: peace, strength, and the ability to love myself again. The ocean may have taken my trust, but it gave me back my freedom, and that's a trait I'll never regret.